Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome into Good Morning Lambeau. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text us 865-658-5824. Joined alongside Jacob up in Wisconsin. People are going to be mad, Jacob. We went a few minutes early here. Caught them on their heels a bit. But how you doing this morning? But I know you're ready to talk some numbers, aren't you?
Yeah, man. I'm awake. I'm ready. Got some coffee. I want to crunch some numbers and do some hard math in the morning. It's gonna be great. No, I'm excited. Hey, it's better we go a little early than a little late, right?
Yeah,
Maybe.
absolutely, man. Yeah. Under promise, over deliver, man. That's what we shoot for here. You know what I'm saying? But whether you go early or bad, most of the
So
time,
bad it's good.
there you go. Sometimes it's so bad it's good. You know what I mean? Good morning from San Diego. What's up, Gilbert? Good to see you in here, bub.
San Diego, that's Spanish for a Wells. Never
It's
mind.
what? What'd you say?
You never seen Anchorman? San Diego? It's Spanish for a Wales.
Oh, gotcha. I need to go back and watch Anchorman, dude. That's one of my favorite movies. There's very few movies I've watched and I laugh out loud. That's one of them, bro. And the outtakes are even better. If you ever get a chance to watch the Anchorman outtakes, oh my God. Will Ferrell's one of one, there's no doubt. So what we're going to do here today, and we're going to jump into it quick, Jacob, because we got a ton of information to cover. Something I like to do this time of year is kind of look at the salary cap. I like to look and go, okay, where's the money being allocated for the current year? And it kind of sets the stage for next season. And what is Goody thinking, right? At this moment right now, everybody thinks that the general manager is probably just chilling. He ain't doing anything. He's already on to the next year. He's looking at how he's going to get this Jordan Love contract finished, obviously. Where's the money going to come from? How are things going to be allocated next year? And really, you got to kind of do a little bit of a self-evaluation. You got to say, okay, where did we spend money and did it make sense? And there's going to be some hard topics in here because these are going to be players that we all really like, right? The one that comes to mind first and foremost for me, and I've been talking about it for the last few years, caught a little bit of hate for it, but that's okay, man. Everybody is, entitled to their opinion. Kenny Clark. Kenny Clark as a man, what an amazing person, amazing leader in the locker room. I mean, he was basically a kid when he got drafted by the Packers. What was he, 20 years old, Jake? He's barely 20, if I remember correctly. So you want to see that work out. And the reality is you haven't got the production as far as the rate of return, right? Like your return on investment, if you will. You really haven't seen that production there with Kenny. And I know Rashawn Gary catches a little bit of flack because the sack numbers aren't up. But it's an argument as old as time is what's more important, sacks or pressures? The answer is yes. They're both important. But if you had to choose, for me, if you would rather have a few more sacks but a whole lot less pressures, I'm going with a whole lot more pressures and a few less sacks to get that quarterback off their spot and just to disrupt the offense in general. But we'll get into that. So we're going to go position by position, and we're going to show where the Packers cap spending for 2024, this current year, actually ranks amongst the rest of the NFL. Does that sound good to you, man?
Let's do it.
All right. So one thing right off the top, and I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time here. We can wrap back around to it. The rookie contracts, not all of them are done yet, to the best of my knowledge. You guys know I was out of the loop a couple nights ago, but we're going to talk about the cap hits for the rookies. This should show how valuable these draft picks are. At any point, Jacob, I'm going to be talking a lot. If any point you got something to say, just cut me off. Say, shut up, Clayton. I got something to say. All right. We're going to try to get through this in about 45 to 50 minutes. But the rookie contracts, first round pick, Jordan Morgan, it looks like we're just going to key on the annual average value. Okay. So that AAV there, well, that's basically what your cap hit's going to turn out to be, roughly. Now, that can be pushed up, that can be pushed back, depending on how they want to structure the contracts, things like that. But this is just a good estimate, ballpark estimate, if you will, on these rookie contracts. So Jordan Morgan, the 25th overall pick, probably going to tie up roughly $3.5 million in cap space per year. Round 2, pick 45, Edgerrin Cooper, linebacker, $2.1 million. Pick 58 in round 2 there. Javon Bullard, safety, $1.6 million. You talk about great value. If he ends up winning that starting safety or that safety spot opposite Xavier McKinney, what some would consider the strong safety spot, that's going to be great value there starting for the next 4 years. Pick 88 in round 3, Marshawn Lloyd, $1.4 million. let's see. And actually this year, I want to say his cap hit's only projected to be like 1.1 or maybe 1.2 million. So again, that's just kind of the annual average. Tyron Hopper was picked 91 there in round 3, 1.4 million. Round 4, Evan Williams, that's pick 111, 1.2 million. And then you move on to round 5. You got Jacob Monk, the interior offensive lineman, 1 million flat. Pick 169, Katan Oladapo, who we did the chalk talk on last night. You guys seen the plays he made in college. If he carries that over at the NFL level, he's only 1 million flat against the cap. Like that's going to be a very, very valuable contract. Travis Glover at pick 202, 1 million flat. Let's see, pick 245, Michael Pratt, 1 million flat. And then Kalen King, pick 255, 1 million flat. So you can kind of see how they drop off by the thousands, but we're not going to split hairs here. Again, the cap hit itself a little bit different. Let me give you an example of that real quick, like the Marshawn Lloyd contract. You can see his cap hit in 2024 is only 1 million flat, although we show 1.4 average. So that's kind of a high number, just averaging the whole thing out. It jumps to 1.2 million in 2025, 1.5 million in 2026, and 1.8 million in 2027. Again, these are the cap hits, okay? Obviously, your cash, your dead cap, all that stuff's listed off to the side. We won't get too lost in that. Now, let's go position by position, Jake. First of all, you got anything to add to those rookie contract listings there, man?
No, I mean, it does show. I guess, what's your opinion on compared to other sports, especially like baseball and basketball? There's a lot of flack the NFL gets for not paying their guys until they get kind of that second contract, and even like the higher end draft picks. I mean, 14 million is nothing to shake a stick at, but over 4 years, you can kind of see how maybe. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Do you think they get underpaid? I know everybody's like, these guys make too much money, but as far as you compare it to like those guaranteed salaries in the NBA and that kind of stuff, I mean, do you think? I mean, I personally, if I get $1 million a year, that's life-changing money for me, but I haven't dedicated the last 15 years of my life to a certain craft or sport, and I only have a 10-year window maybe to make as much money as I can before my body breaks down, if I'm lucky. So what are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are, compared to the DoorDashers that's about to drop Chick-fil-A off at the front door, yeah, they're overpaid like crazy. But compared to baseball, compared to basketball, from a rookie standpoint, I'm with you, man. The NFL, what it comes down to is their ability to collectively bargain with the Players Association is just top notch, man. They dominate those negotiations. There's no two ways about it. And this is something that Aaron Rodgers was very vocal about several years ago, and all the player reps on the team, right? And the big conversation was these rookies are getting paid way too much money. Remember that? Before they did the slotting, I want to say it happened in 2011. I could be wrong. Before they did that, to where they structured, okay, rookie pay scale, here's what you get paid. You had to negotiate those contracts with your draft picks, right? And that's why you had people like A.J. Hawk made a ton of money as the 4th overall pick for the Packers at linebacker, where they would go in, you'd have to negotiate that contract. Well, the players, the old veteran players stepped up and was like, this isn't fair, man. The rookies are getting paid more than guys who've been in the league forever. And as they're making having that conversation, I'm going, morally, yeah, you're right, man. It does seem kind of messed up. But be careful what you're talking about here. Like, you're about to screw. You're already kind of screwed from a player standpoint, from a veteran standpoint, but you're really about to screw the whole system from a rookie standpoint. Because all that's going to do, they assumed that if we get the rookie wages down, then they'll pay the veterans more. Those owners were going, yeah, let's get those rookie wages down. Let's do that. And then what happened? You didn't have that trickle over effect, right? So yeah.
It's kind of like every time somebody says, all we got to do is raise the minimum wage.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing else raises in price. You're right. That'll just work.
What happens when you raise a minimum wage? You walk into McDonald's and all of a sudden you got automated machines. People lost jobs. Right. So yeah, you gotta, boy, that's as a business owner, that's a topic for another day, man. You get paid more by adding more value. It's that simple. If you increase a company's value, then you're going to get paid more. If they don't pay you more, guess what you do? As a citizen of the United States of America, right? Free market enterprise. You have the right to go, you know what? I'm underpaid. I'm going to go start my own thing. And when you do, I'm speaking from experience. You're looking at a guy whose house was in foreclosure in 2009. We were 4 months behind on the mortgage because the company I worked for went belly up and the company Mandy worked for went belly up. We went from a combined, I'll get personal here for a minute. We went from a combined income of about $110,000 a year in 2009 to zero for 8 months. That's what happened. You know what Clayton did? I'm not depending on another human being the rest of my life. I'm going to go create multiple streams of income and do it on my own. And I'm telling you, man, once you step out of that bubble, it's like, wow, this is the way to live right here. Stop depending on other people. So the problem is they're conditioned to think, I need someone else. I need that. I've got to depend on the system. I've got to depend on this rather than going out and creating something for yourself. So this wasn't on the bingo card to talk about, but when you're talking numbers at the NFL level, it does apply. But again, that's how the players kind of screwed themselves. They were complaining about the rookies getting paid so much, and that money didn't transfer over. So now you've got this slotted system, as we're like in baseball. Those guys are getting paid bukus, And the thing about baseball too is their contracts are completely guaranteed. But nonetheless, let's move on to the positions here. And you're going to see the large majority of these positions, the Packers are in great shape, right? And we're going to compare it across the league as far as cap spending. So let's start with quarterback, all right? And it's going to be kind of hard to read. I'll read it for you guys. I did this purposely to show you how far they are down on the list. When it comes to the quarterback room and the spending across the league, Green Bay is sitting in the 22 spot. So this year in 2024, there's only $15.4 million allocated to the quarterback room. So you could see now, Jordan Love finished the year last year, those last 9 games. Some would argue he was the best quarterback in the league. Look at their bang for buck. 15.4 for the entire quarterback room. Now, keep in mind, some of these numbers don't include the new rookies. So just like I said, take some of this grain of salt, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean with the starters. They're eating up the most caps. So
can I point something out real quick, Clay?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Like, look at your top 5 quarterbacks up on this list. Would anybody say that, hey, out of the 32 starting NFL quarterbacks, I want to pay Deshaun Watson the most? And after that, whatever quarterback you want to say is playing in Denver, whether it be Danger Russ or anything that, if Bo Nix, but I mean, like, the fact that they've allocated that much money, we just talked about it. Like, that's fiscal and irresponsibility at a level that I don't know. I mean, look at the Giants at number 4. Even some could argue that Dak at number 3 doesn't deserve that kind of allocation. I think a lot of people would argue that Matt Stafford, even though he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback, for how banged up that dude's body is. And then you got the Cardinals at number 6. I think the only one on this list that makes any sense is the Chiefs at 7, and maybe the Baltimore Ravens at 9 and Buffalo at 10. It's like, other than that, I don't know.
No, I think it's great that you pointed that out, because when you look at these positional breakdowns, the first thing I say to myself is that team good? Is that team good? Is that team good? Because it matters. It really does. And that's why they're kind of hesitant on paying Dak. I personally believe Dak is a top 10 quarterback. That's me. He was in the MVP conversation last year. I know you hate him. The problem, though, is when the game's on the line, think player, not play. Is he a truck, right? Or is he a trailer? That whole conversation that Daniel Jeremiah always has. What we mean by that is he the truck pulling the trailer, or is he the trailer getting pulled by the truck? I have a hard time saying that Dak in the playoffs is a truck. When you seen Jordan Love against the Dallas Cowboys in the playoffs, he was a truck, right? I mean, he throws off the back foot. When he came to the line and recognized that the cornerbacks were lining up in a stack defense, like a stack coverage defense, and they weren't playing stack on the left. And he looked at the strong side for him and said, oh, zero coverage. Check it at the line. Tell the Y to stay in and block. Do a little hot route action to Dontavian Wicks and burn a former defensive player of the year in Stephon Gilmore. Like, that's being a truck. So recognizing at the line and then having the accuracy to throw off the back foot, avoid the rush, and make that happen. So, yeah. I'm with you, man. That's exactly – we're on the same page. That's what I'll look at when we go through these positions. Let's go to running back real quick. Running back, the Green Bay Packers in 2024 as far as cap hits come in 13th at $10.1 million, okay? Again, you look at the top of the list here. New Orleans, number 1, right? San Francisco, obviously a solid team. Arizona, number 3. I'm sorry, San Francisco, number 2. Arizona, number 3, trash. Detroit Lions at number 4, solid team, obviously. Number 5, you got the Carolina Panthers, one of the worst teams in the league last year. Indianapolis Colts at number 6 because of that Jonathan Taylor contract, I'm sure. Number 7, Cleveland Browns. Number 8, the Baltimore Ravens. Number 9, the Chicago Bears. Number 10, the Houston Texans. So it's kind of a split there. You see roughly 5 teams, right, that are good teams that they're spending money in the running back room. So, again, Green Bay stacks up 13th there. And we pointed out that Marshawn Lloyd contract's only going to be worth roughly $1 million per.
Yeah, I'd argue, too, that even though, it makes a little bit of sense if you look at, obviously, San Fran being as good as they are with McCaffrey there. But when he got hurt, that's a lot of dead money.
It is.
Thing in Indianapolis, when he got hurt, that's a lot of dead money. Cleveland, when Chubb got hurt, that's a lot of dead money. Baltimore, when Dobbins and the Gus Bus both went hurt, that's a lot of dead money. And now both Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins are over in the Chargers, LA's with Harbaugh. So that's kind of interesting. That it seems like a lot of teams that put a lot of money. I mean, we all scoff kind of at the Packers and how they're so particularly careful with the way they spend money. But when you look at some of these breakdowns, it really makes you understand that Goody knows what he's doing. Like, he's not just going to give you a bag if it's not fiscally responsible.
And it doesn't mean he doesn't make mistakes. Every general manager makes mistakes, right? You're not going to hit 100% of the time. But yeah, and the thing I like about Green Bay here being in 13th spot, you're not at the bottom, you're not at the top. You're right there in the middle with running back, which means you're being very strategic with how you're spending money at the running back position. It's an important position, right? But not willing to overpay. And the beautiful thing about Josh Jacobs' contract, if I remember correctly, guaranteed, basically what it comes down to, it really was a 1-year, $12 million guarantee with 3 club options. And what I mean by that is if you cut bait with him after 1 year, you were only on the hook for $12 million in fully guaranteed. So he's got to make the roster to earn more guaranteed money, essentially. So you could move on from him after this year. Not that you would want to. Now, on the flip side, he's going to try to get money guaranteed moving forward. There's going to be some negotiating. There's going to be some restructuring of the contract, base salary, roster bonus, what am I trying to say here? Adjusted to signing bonus to make sure it's guaranteed money. All those things that happen with the cash over cap game. But yeah, so I like where we sit with the running back room there currently. And again, what if Marshawn Lloyd comes in and lights it up? And let's say Josh Jacobs is good, and Marshawn Lloyd proves he can be a number 1 running back. Daniel Jeremiah had him as his top running back. The other day we were listening to something on the show, and I've already forgot who it was. They actually listed Marshawn Lloyd as their top running back too. It wasn't just Daniel Jeremiah. But nonetheless, let's say in 2 years Marshawn Lloyd has proven he can be a number 1 running back. You can cut ties with Josh Jacobs or play hardball like they did with Aaron Jones the last 2 years and get pay cuts, drop that number down, and you've still got a solid running back room. So you can see that setting up for the future. This is the one I'm most excited about, though. Let's move on to the wide receiver room. Look at that one, Jacob. Green Bay Packers have according to the 2024 salary cap, cap hit allocation, the Green Bay Packers have the cheapest wide receiver room in the entire National Football League. $11.5 million in cap hits. You know how many receivers or one receiver alone is making more than $11.5 million in this league? It's wild, man.
What's crazy though is that number doesn't even do it justice. So we're looking at 11.5. You don't go very far. You go to like 27 or 26, and we've already doubled what our receivers are getting paid. Let alone you go up even higher on that list. Can I ask a question? So when it looks like the number that's in between the salary and the team, is that the number of players they have under contract? And if so, does that mean that they're still paying out certain players that maybe have left the team, but they have an existing contract?
Are you talking about the 1.1?
No, I'm looking at the like the 10.
Oh, the 10. Gotcha. Let me see real quick.
If I'm not mistaken, I thought
that's players. Yeah,
players. So look at that. Like Cleveland at the top of the list is only paying 5 players the top amount. We're down here paying 10 players 11.
Are you talking about the quarter? Yeah, that was the quarterback position. I'm sorry.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
I was just trying to see that at the top because it was cut off.
Sure. But to me, I mean, that's insane. And we talked about the young talent, all this kind of stuff. It is insane to look at how productive that group is, and the fact that they're all locker room guys. Like nobody, luckily to this point, knock on wood, nobody's sitting there being like, I need to make this guy that in my exact area makes 15, 12. 20 million a year. They're all just like, all right, we're going to keep our heads down, keep plugging. And then once it's time to get paid, we'll let that work itself out. But that's incredible to me.
It
Absolutely.
really is, man. It's exciting to see. Again, 4.1% of the cap is allocated to the wide receiver from a Green Bay Packers standpoint. Like that's and look at the production they're getting, you know. And again, Goody's made mistakes. When it comes to the wide receiver room, he knocked it out of the freaking park, bro. And who I would argue there's not a team in the NFL that catches more hell about the way they build the wide receiver room than the Green Bay Packers. Every year for the last 5 years, it was they need a wide receiver in the first round. That's why they're not winning. They're not getting a wide receiver in the first round. They're not paying, top money to wide receiver. They're not going out and getting a true number one, right? Even when you had Devontae Adams, it felt like a bargain, right? It's just wild. So again, this is how you're able to compete and build off important positions. Numbers like this with the wide receiver room and being in the middle of the pack with the running back room is why you can afford to pay Jordan Love if indeed Goody thinks he's worthy of being one of, if not the highest paid quarterbacks in the league. And we'll see how that negotiation falls into place. When you talk about cash over cap, you can save on cap hit by guaranteeing more money, essentially giving more cash, right? I'm wondering if they might go that route. Someone said the other day, I heard it on a podcast, I think it might have been on the Homer Hour. Someone said, which would you rather do? Would you rather give a longer term contract with less guaranteed money, or would you rather give a shorter contract with more guaranteed money? I was kind of leaning towards shorter with more guaranteed. And the reason I say that's because, like, what if you went, rather than go the 5, 7, or even 10-year route, like what happened with Patrick Mahomes? And again, I think the Packers are probably shooting for a 4-year contract, and they'll probably meet in the middle. But what if you said, hey, look, yeah, we'll give you a 3-year deal, $150 million fully guaranteed, and that keeps you from having to, tack on those extra years. Or if you went 2 years, because the reality is some people are not sure if Jordan is that guy. And we're going to do this in the upcoming weeks, you're going to see how bad he played in the first half of the season last year, but we're also going to see how good he played in the second half of the season. If those timelines had been reversed, Jacob, and he had started strong and then if he had ended the season the way he started it, we probably would be looking at somewhere between 25 to 40 million per, as opposed to 50 to 60 million per. So it's what have you done for me lately? And you're paying for future production, not past production, right? What do you think he's going to be? All signs indicate that he's going to be great. But
yeah, I'm always wondering, why don't more teams simply just place like a really decent base value to a contract? Let's say Jordan Love, all the talk says he's going to get 52 or 55 million or whatever. How about we just say, hey, Jordan, we're coming with you with a 50 flat, but we're going to have a bunch of incentives in there. If you pass for over 3,500 yards, if you pass for over 35 touchdowns, if you only throw 10 interceptions or less, we'll pay you that 55. And that to me makes so much sense. It's like, give him a good base floor where he's right there in the nick of things with, like your Goffs, and I'm sure Prescott and all these guys are going to be getting that 52, 53, 54 per year. Why don't we just give him a team-friendly deal and say, hey, if you really are that guy, if you're really that confident in yourself, if you end that year and you got 4,000 yards passing, 40 touchdowns, and this and this and this, you're going to end up getting paid $57 million, which if the Packers see that at the end of the year, they're like, we'd be fine paying this guy $60 million if he's the number one quarterback in the league. Right. Is there a reason why more teams don't do that incentive-based contracts? And if so, why not?
Yeah. Prince in the chat said $10 million to be added to cap space after June 1. We're going to get to that here in a minute with the Devondre Campbell talk. After June 1 may leave room to front load a Love deal more, or possibly help with a new Clark deal if they want. It's exactly the first thing that popped in my mind, Prince, when I looked at that. And okay, that money's going to free up now. If you do sign Jordan Love to a 4 to 6 year deal, front load it, get some of that cap hit out of the way early, and then you can kind of ease it off on the backside, and you'll set yourself up for the future. That's exactly the way I looked at it. And it would be different if we weren't competing right now. But it seems like that Super Bowl window has slightly opened. Some people would say it's wide open. I hope they're right. And you guys know me, I'm kind of a boring fan. I try not to get too high. I try not to get too low. But it doesn't make for a good podcast, but I feel like I am being reasonable most of the time. But if you look at how that window is now open, you can really, if things hit hard this year, over the next 2 to 3 years, if you get a big chunk of that cap hit out of the way now, and the cap continues to go up. Now, I don't think it's going to jump another 30 million like it did last year. Of course, you never know with the new media deals that are are being worked out right now. These next 2 to 3 years, you could see a much lower cap number for the quarterback position from the Packers standpoint, comparatively speaking to the rest of the league, and put yourself in a position to really open that window up. So it's an exciting time for sure. AFAM in the chat said, no way small town Green Bay is going to be able to afford these salaries in 10 years. Here's the thing about that. AFAM, they were saying that when they gave Brett Favre his huge deal. They were saying that when they gave Aaron Rodgers all 3 of his big deals. I challenge you to do this, AFAM. Again, I don't mean any disrespect. I love the comment. It's the reason I put it on the screen. I used to think like this too, like how are they going to be able to keep up? Do a little bit of research into the money that they're printing at 1265 Lombardi. Because I'm telling you right now, man, this is why I have a lot of respect for Mark Murphy. And I hate to use the word casual fans, but the people that just like to bash Murphy, he's a moron. Dig into the financials and look at what he's doing with the property around Lambeau Field. Bro, he's created an absolute monster. He's buying up all that property, Titletown Flats, the apartments, the medical building that's there, all of the restaurants around the area. I'm telling you, man, they're setting themselves up to really do amazing things.
Do you know
to be able to compete?
Do you know a number? Could you put a ballpark number onto what or how much revenue that whole Titletown experience brings in, let alone if you could add that to, like, I'd have to imagine that the draft is going to make Green Bay a substantial amount of money, not just the city, but the organization. And I wonder how that transfers into, are they allowed to use that money, allocate it anyway into their salaries? Or like, I wonder what the NFL collective bargaining agreement says about that kind of stuff there.
I'm not going to comment on the exact number, but it's something that Pat McAfee talked about a lot. They've got an investment fund where they're taking money that they're making and investing it into the market. And just that one alone, it was something like $200 million in that account. Bro, I'm telling you, they're doing things right. And that's why it's so important to get this next acting president, CEO, whatever you want to call them, right. And I've heard Ed Policy's the big name. There's a couple other names being thrown around. Whoever it is, I want it to be within the building, right? And be able to, they've really been able to kind of learn how things have operated. The last thing I want is bring someone from the outside who's not familiar with the way they've done business the last few years, and then just throw them into the fire and screw the pooch, so to speak. So, yeah. Profit sharing, AFAM says, what about profit sharing? Is it anything like baseball? Thank God for the New York Giants. That's why I have a lot of respect for the New York Giants organization and the Mara family. Way back in the day when the Packers were struggling, they could have just said, hey, look, you know what? Like our media deals, we're just going to keep that money. They were the ones who proposed to share that revenue, right? All the media revenue amongst the league. So teams like Green Bay could exist today. I don't know if that's exactly what you're asking about, but there's a lot of that goes on too that's really, really important for the Packers. But we're at the 28-minute mark. We're going to have to go rapid fire if we're going to get through all these positions. This is a good conversation, though, man. I appreciate everybody in the chat. I apologize if we're not hitting to as many comments. You guys got great topics in there. That's why I grabbed a couple out of there. Let's go on to tight end. Look at this one, Jacob. The Packers are 26th in the league in tight end cap hit for 2024 at $6.7 million, only 2.4% of the cap. This is what happens when you hit in the draft, right? Now, again, Musgrave and Tucker Kraft, they got to come out and prove it again this year. I think we're in a good spot. If we didn't have Tucker Kraft, I'd be a little more shaky on the tight end position. Like, okay, can Musgrave stay healthy? Is it going to fully click for him this year? Can he block at the level that we need a second-round pick to block at?
He can block.
Yeah, exactly. But the fact that Tucker Kraft played so well and his catching ability really surprised me, just how sure-handed he is. It gives me a lot of hope for the tight end position. But, man, 26 in the league, that's a great number there too, dude.
Yeah. What we're seeing right here is that there is a absolute rhyme or reason to the way that Goody drafts, and we've talked about his strategy of like, hey, there's a position of need here. I'm going to throw 2 or 3 darts at that position because one of them's going to be a bullseye, and we've seen that in the wide receiver room, crushed it. We went from Tim talks about it, how this year the safety room was a our biggest weakness. All of a sudden, we get free agency, we get the draft, boom. All of a sudden, it's looking like it's one of our biggest strengths. We did that with the wide receiver room. We did it with the tight end room. You could argue we did it with the quarterback room. You could argue we did it with the running back room. So I'd like to see what our offensive line, where they stack up.
Bro, my phone just was. I got a text on the text line from someone named Quentin. I don't have the number saved, so evidently they just. What's that?
Quentin Tarantino?
It may be Quentin Tarantino. No, it's the first time this person has texted the text line, which is kind of cool. But he said, Clayton, I thought we were in cap hell, LOL. You guys remember 2 years ago when I was going, don't believe the doom and gloom. Everybody, oh my God, we're kicking the can down the road. We're going to run the organization. They were saying it last year. They're quiet right now. If we decide to open up that window again and kick the can again, they'll ramp back up and pretend like, oh my God, the Packers are not going to be able to pay the light bill, right? So here we are in great shape once again. It's just, again, the salary cap is real. I'm not one of those people that think the salary cap's fake. The salary cap is real from a date-sensitive standpoint, period. You don't believe me, go back and look at what happens to Zadarius Smith. Look what happened with Devontae Adams. When you've got a deadline, right, that's where the cap is very real. You got to get under that number by this time. There's 1,000 different ways you can get under that number. Now, some are way less, fiscally responsible than others, but I feel like Goody he's stayed right in the middle, and every now and again he'll get a little aggressive. Windows open. All right, now let's get back in here and get normal. All right, and then you'll get aggressive when you need to. So,
do you think that a better way to say it is that the salary? It's not that the salary cap's fake. It's that the salary cap is fungible, and that you can move stuff around to make money. Or you can allocate in different ways where that money's going.
Yeah, it's all about the structure of the contract. The reason I never panicked over the Green Bay Packers salary cap situation is because when you look at the highest paid contracts and look how they're structured, you go, oh, this is cake right here. Like, look at Xavier McKinney. That's how Goody has always done business. Like, when you look at his guaranteed, a 4-year deal is really only a 2 or a 3-year deal. You can get out of that and free that cap up. And all the doom and gloomers key in on, and you guys know who I'm talking about. They're on Twitter. There's a handful of them that they just live for this stuff. The only reason that I wasn't worried is because I don't fall into that camp of those guys that go, well, look at our cap penalty. My God, we have $30 million in cap penalties this year. Bro, that's gone next year. It's gone. Like, that's off the books. And they make it sound as if that's just something that's going to hold the Packers back for the next 2 decades. It's just not. It's not a realistic argument. And again, people want to justify and sound smarter than they are. That's one thing, obviously, you could tell by the way I talk. We don't try to do on this show. We're going to go to the facts and say, all right, here's how it actually lays. You might be hemmed up for a year because you decided to go all in that year. But within 2 to 3 years, you're right back in a good situation. Like, it's not a big deal. And again, like you said, Jacob, there's 3 components to a contract that you really need to key in on: base salary, signing bonus, and roster bonus. You can take base salary and roster bonus and convert it to signing bonus and spread that out over the duration of the contract, even tack on voidable years. But not only that, what many people overlook is when you do that and you convert it to a check and a signing bonus, you most of the time can lower the overall cap hit over the entirety of the contract because you're guaranteed money as opposed to a roster bonus where you've got to make the roster and you're not actually guaranteed that money until you make the roster, or a base salary, which is that weekly check. So offensive line. Once again, Green Bay offensive line. You guys seen they were one of the best pass blocking offensive lines in the entire NFL last year. Run blocking, a little bit cheeks. Ain't gonna fluff it. But they're 29th in the league at only $31.8 million in cap hit for 2024. And that's spread out over 15 players. That averages out to $2.1 million for offensive lineman, man. Pretty wild.
That's insane. There's teams that have wide receivers making that in 1 year. Like, that's insane.
And people, I know they're going, Clayton, you complained about the run blocking last year, though. Don't we need to spend more money there? What did we do in the first round? Got arguably one of the best run blocking tackles, left tackles too, in the draft. That's the thing that he excels at: footwork, technique, run blocking. That's what he's great. He's a good pass blocker too, but great at run blocking. So you kind of address that early in the draft. The board fell just right. You're able to get a guy that might potentially be your future left tackle, your left tackle of the future, or could plug and play on the interior, like say at right guard, and really be able to pull and run some power and some GT and some pin and pull, all that stuff that we talk about that Matt LaFleur likes to mix in. He's got the footwork to do that if he can play at the next level. Only time will tell. It could be a bust. I'm not ruling that out. I hope it's not, but everything on the surface says he's got everything that the Packers like in a versatile offensive lineman. Moving on to linebacker. This is when it gets ugly, Jacob. And we're going to break down why it's ugly. So keep in mind here, this is very, very important. Let me drop this down real quick. The reason the linebacker room is so expensive on this graphic is because they list outside linebackers as linebackers. Okay. Spot Track has not adjusted to where the defensive, the outside linebackers in the 34, Rashawn Gary, Preston Smith, they would actually be considered defensive ends now. Okay, so they're listed as outside linebackers, therefore falling in the same camp as linebacker. I want to put that out there because this number is going to look way higher than it actually is. Okay, and we'll explain what that means here in a second. So they're showing that they're the third most expensive linebacker room in the league at $56 million. All right, now when you go to the linebacker room breakdown, here's how it breaks down according to Spot Track. Again, you don't have Edgerrin Cooper on this list yet. You do have Tyron Hopper there, so you're expecting Edgerrin Cooper to be added to this. And if we go back, Edgerrin Cooper's projection on average is going to be 2.1 million. It'll probably fall more in the 1.8 million range would be my guess. So nothing, that's not going to throw this completely into flux. So with the linebacker room, Devondre Campbell, $14.2 million you see in the red post June 1 designation. So as the cap sits right now, we are carrying a $14.2 million cap hit. That's not going to be there come June 1. Now let's explain what that means, and then we'll come back to the linebacker room. The Green Bay Packers designated linebacker Devondre Campbell as a post-June 1 cut when they released him at the start of the new league year on Wednesday. What does this mean? By designating Campbell as a post-June 1 cut, the Packers can spread out the dead money incurred from prorated money and guarantees over the next 2 seasons. Instead of all the dead money accelerating onto the 2024 salary cap, the money will be split across 2024 and 2025, creating more savings for this year, but eating into the cap next year. So essentially what you got is Campbell's cap number was going to be $14.2 million, right? That's what we just showed you here, $14.2 million. It was going to be $14.2 million in 2024, making him a post-June 1 cut will save the Packers $10.5 million in 2024, while adding $3.6 in dead money this year, the prorated money for Campbell this year, and $7.9 million the rest of the prorated money on next year. So you're going to kind of split up that cap hit. Okay, so when June 1st passes, what you're essentially going to do is you're going to free up $10.5 million against the cap this year. That's what we're referring to about possibly getting Jordan Love's contract front loaded. If you free up that 10.5 this year, and that's 10.5 that you can tack onto the cap for Jordan Love this year, then you can kind of reduce the cap hit on the backside of that contract. But here's the thing. Goody may not see it that way. Goody may say, no, man, the cap's going to continue to go up. Let's just keep doing what we're doing. That could be the case too. The money is still there. Many people don't understand that there's a rollover aspect of the salary cap. They think if you don't spend that money this year, you lose it. No, that's not how that works. Much like the government, Jacob, you've seen in The Office, right? The surplus.
Spend it to me like I'm sick.
Yeah. And people are like, I wonder why the government doesn't do that. That way we don't feel rushed to spend money in the budget. You know why? Because the government is morons. That's why.
No, dude, it's cool because we'll just print it. That doesn't affect anything. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, but yeah, so the linebacker room, when you look at the rest of the breakdown here, they got Preston Smith, who is actually a defensive end in this new defense, $14.1 million. So take that off. Rashawn Gary, $11.1 million. Look at Rashawn Gary's cap number, bro. Isn't that beautiful? $11.1 million. And how many people last year said, wait till next year. Wait till next year. It's going to blow up. It's 11.1 in 2024. Lucas Van Ness, $3.9 million. And again, those 3 players, Preston Smith, Rashawn Gary, and Lucas Van Ness, are actually defensive linemen. So that is what? 25, 28, roughly $29 million in cap that's actually going to go on the defensive line. So when you break it down that way and you remove Devondre Campbell post June 1, the hardest cap hit in your linebacker room is Quay Walker at $3.7 million. So the mistake, when I say Goody makes mistakes, the mistake Goody made was Devondre Campbell extending him, right? It obviously did not work out. And I know everybody likes to blame Joe Barry, but if it was Joe Barry's fault, why did they cut Devondre Campbell? Somebody explain that to me.
Do you think that realistically, post June 1, that's when we're going to see that Jordan Love contract, because there are millions of dollars that get freed up or whatever? Does that help the balance? Is that factor into that decision at all?
I don't think it does, but then again, the closer we get to June, maybe that is what Goody's thinking. Is like, hey, let's let this drop off. I think if the right, let me put it this way, I think if the right deal was on the table from Jordan Love's camp and Mugatu, no, Mulugeta, right? If the right offer was there, Goody would sign it right now, right? And you could kind of, set the trigger date later in the season. I just don't think they're there yet, because it's going to be a very difficult contract to get done, because again, if you're paying Jordan Love like the last 9 games, he's a top 3, top 5 quarterback. If you're paying him like the previous, whatever it was, 8 games in the season, he's probably more like a top 20 quarterback, right?
I don't know if by chance you listened to, I can't remember if it was 1 or 2 or 3 podcasts ago, but Ryan basically went through the contract negotiations, some comments by Adam Schefter about how he kind of baited that, like, oh, if the deal gets done. He basically went on to say that, we should all kind of chill out, because the Packers literally hold all the cards here, to the point where even if for some reason Mulligatu, whatever, if he decides to say, hey, Jordan, we're not signing nothing unless we get up to that 53, 55 a year kind of thing, the Packers can let him play out his existing contract. They have the ability to then franchise him. They have the ability to franchise him again. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, not that I'd want that to happen or anything like that, but do you agree with that line of thinking where Goot's just sitting there? He's got his poker shades on. He's what's that guy's name? Chris Moneymaker. He's just sitting there at the poker table. He ain't even he's no face on him whatsoever. He's not going to break.
Yeah. Here's the problem I have with that stance. And again, I don't want this to come across like it's an extreme. No, that's definitely not how you need to do it. The reality is, if you remove all emotion, right? All emotion, and pretend like Jordan Love isn't a human being that respect matters in his life, right? And that's the thing about like being a business owner. And when you have employees or you have business partners, the person that's like, I'm just going to be a numbers guy, I'm going to sit back and do what's best. Yeah, good luck making business work that way. And if you don't believe me, rewind back to the Davante Adams situation. They ended up offering Davante Adams more money than the Raiders did. And Davante said, screw y'all, you've already disrespected me. Now, I understand you can go, yeah, Davante screwed himself. Look how bad that situation. I get it. That's a valid argument. But that doesn't mean a hill of beans to Davante Adams. Like, once you get to the point where someone has established themselves for your organization, and then you go, nah, show me one more year. And they made him an offer less than $20 million per. That's insane. That is a slap in the face. So some players may go, oh, it's just business and move on. That's cool. I wish every player was like that. But anytime someone makes an argument like, oh, just shut up, it's just business, I would love to see their reaction when their boss comes to them and goes, hey, I know you're worth this much, but screw you, screw your family, screw everything you've put into the organization. I'm going to lowball you. And you better not have any hard feelings. I'm sorry, man. That's not the way I would like to do business. I think that I think there's a law sewn into the earth, whether you're a Christian like me or you just think what goes around comes around. But you reap what you sow in this life. I believe that. If you treat people good, good things will happen to you. If you treat people bad, bad things are going to happen to you. It's just the way it is. But yeah, so when it comes to the whole Jordan Love thing, yes, you technically have the leverage. You can say, no, we're not paying you a dime over this amount, get over it, and you can franchise tag them the next 2 years. When was the last time a quarterback got franchise tagged? Now think about this. The big name that always gets brought up is Kirk Cousins in Washington. They franchise tagged him 2 years in a row. How did that work out for Washington? I'll wait for the answer. And for me, precedent is everything. Like, if you're going to try to make an educated decision, an educated guess on, hey, here's how this could play out. There's pros and cons to both stances in this situation. I'm going to go off precedent almost 100% of the time, because people have already walked through that minefield, right? And if I can look at someone else's mistakes and go, hey, you know what? They walked through that minefield and they stepped right there and they lost a leg. Maybe I want to step left right here. Another name is Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott got franchise tagged 1 year, right? How did that work out for Dallas? What's he doing right now? He's playing hardball. You know why he's playing hardball? You know why he's not going the Tom Brady effect? Remember how Tom Brady would take less money I know everybody likes to hate Tom Brady, but you remember how he'd take less money every single year? You know why? Patriots never slapped a franchise tag on him. They never went to him and said, prove it. It was always, hey, let's form a partnership here. Let's work together. That's what I want to see with Jordan Love. I want to see them work more like a partnership rather than, hey, we got the leverage. Get over it, buddy. Sorry. That's just kind of how I see it. So some people would say that's too emotional of a response. Again, I'm going off precedent. Doesn't seem to work out when you try to hold your quarterback hostage there. So that's how I see it. What I think they need to do is try to meet in the middle. Obviously, they're going to want him to get paid like a top 3 quarterback. The Packers are going to want to take more of a conservative approach, like, hey, maybe you meet in the middle with the guaranteed and incentive and lace that thing with so many incentives that if he goes out and continues to ball out, then he is the highest paid quarterback. That's, I think, is the perfect answer to most situations financially in this country and in the world in general. It's you should get paid what you how you perform. Now, obviously, the players union don't want that. They don't want anything being as heavily production based. But that to me is the perfect answer. So maybe you meet in the middle with the guarantee and you make it very, very incentive based. So that answers your question, Jacob. That's a long-winded answer. But.
Yep.
All right, cool. Let's move on to so again, the linebacker room. I just wanted to point out that those 3 of the top 4 are actually defensive linemen. So defensive line room, we are 17th in the league at $39.5 million against the cap in 2024. Okay. Now you're going, okay, yeah, that's kind of middle of the pack. Look at how this shakes out, man. Defensive line cap hits. Kenny Clark is the second highest defensive lineman cap hit across the entire NFL, $27.4 million. Now, here's the good news, Jake, because I did the same thing. So last year of the contract, okay? So it's kind of inflated, right? They didn't choose to restructure anymore or kick any more down the road. It's like, okay, we're going to let him play out this contract, and hey, let's see if he performs and just kind of let this ride itself out. The good news is you're going to free up a bunch of cap room next year. You're going to free up $27.4 million or whatever it is I think there's voidable years tacked on too. So you may have a little bit of acceleration of those voidable years if he's not on the Packers roster next year. But when you look at the entire defensive line room, and this is tough to see. Look at this.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah. And the question, Jacob, before you comment on this is what I want to get, the point I want to get across. If I were to ask you, would you rather have Kenny Clark at $27.4 million, who most people say Kenny Clark is a great defensive lineman, right? I've got to push back on that. And I love Kenny as a person. I think he's a leader in the locker room. I think he's done what he's been asked to do. There's this false narrative out there that Kenny Clark is they made him play nose. They made him play nose. That's not true. Go watch the tape. There was many times he was in a 3-tech. He was in a 4-tech. In some cases, he was in a 5-tech when they were trying to overload blitz on one side. It's not like they're just putting him in a 0-tech every single play and going, hey, all right, man, just occupy 2 gaps. He's going to have more 1-gap assignments this year. There's no question about it. His production should go up. But if you were to say, would you rather have Kenny at 27.4 or get you 2 very good linemen, very good defensive linemen at $12 million each? I'm taking the other 2. That's just me personally. But again, for those on the pod, Kenny comes in at $27.4 million. And then after that, Devontae Wyatt, 3.5, TJ Slayton, 3.1, Kobe Wooden, 1.1. Remember Carl Brooks last year starting to break out? $968,000. Jonathan Ford, $915,000. James Esther, $797,000. The rest of these guys probably not going to make the roster, to be honest. So there you go. Talk to me, Jacob.
All right. When I look at this, you guys know my TJ Maxx brain says, just like Clayton just said, you tell me I could get 3, maybe 4 guys that produce at a certain level for the price of Kenny Clark's $27.5. You look at that compared. So we're basically playing, $24 million more than the next guy up. When I could argue that Devontae Wyatt and TJ Slayton, Kobe Wooden, and Brooks have played at an equal level to Kenny. And again, if you bring up the other contract, when he shows that he's the second highest overall, I'm sorry, but if you tell me, hey, you got to pick one of these guys to completely get knocked out of this top 10, it's Kenny Clark. It is. Like, I would to say that he is produced at a level of Armstead, Sweat, Donald, Crosby, Hayward, Simmons. I mean, even
Right.
Jerome Kane. It's just it's not there. I don't see it.
Yep.
And
No, even Cam Hayward. Cam Hayward's holding out now, but yeah, even Cam Hayward's another one, Jacob. It is, man.
I mean, Kenny Clark has random flashes in the pan, but these guys are consistent and they earn that money. I just don't see it. And I'd argue how good could this Packer team be with 24 freed up $1 million this year? Imagine what we could do with that money. I mean,
yeah. And immediately people will say, but he's a great pass rusher. He's a great pass rusher, right?
So is Wyatt.
Listen, I gotta push back. First of all, he's not been a great run defender. We all know that. The argument for the Kenny Clark fan club is always he's a great pass rusher. If you go to SIS data and you pull this up, guess where he ranks amongst defensive linemen in pressure percentage? 89th in the league. 89th. Now, okay, well, who on the Packers is better than Kenny, right? And again, we got those numbers put up. Lucas Van Ness, very limited snaps. He only played 169 pass snaps. Okay, he had 162 pass rush snaps, 11.2%. He's 56th in the league. All right. Now, if you go on up to the next Packer, I think there was one more on this list. Devontae Wyatt is 22nd in the league at 14.3%. Now, somebody explain to me why we should re-sign Kenny for the same number or more than 27.4 per on average. Like, it doesn't compute. And again, remove the SIS data, remove the pressure rates, right? And let's just go to Spot Track. What does Spot Track say? His fair market value is something like $16 million. They're suggesting that he's overpaid $11 million this year, right? So again, we'll see what he does in the 4-3. He may come out this year and put up Aaron Donald numbers in a 4-3. If he does, I'm okay with extending him. That would show, okay, there's the answer to the question. This dude was being held back by a 34 front. And again, it wasn't just Joe Barry. We played a 34 since Dom Capers came in, right? Dom Capers 34, Mike Pettin 34 front, and then, of course, Joe Barry 34 front. If Kenny explodes this year, the problem is he's a little longer in the tooth now. So it'd probably be looking at like a 2 to 3 year, a 3-year deal that's really a 2-year deal, or a 4-year deal that's really a 3-year deal type thing. One thing about it, I think you're going to get the best version of Kenny Clark, and I hope he blows up. You're not going to find a better leader than Kenny Clark, man. His story and how he's represented the Green Bay Packers while being here is absolutely phenomenal. Again, this is the emotional side to me in building a business. You want that dude on your roster. You want him in your locker room. Maybe that's what Goody is overpaid for. It's like, hey, we need this guy right there in the middle for his leadership. But from a production standpoint, it's going to be hard convincing me that him being, whatever it was, 89th in pressure rate. I just can't. I'm sorry. As Ricky Bobby said, I'm too drunk to taste this chicken. That's just a little bit out of the realm for me. So
I think there is something to be said to that, Clayton, about how the fact that maybe there is an intangible towards a player that we can't monetize on a certain value. Like, he's a locker room guy. This guy is just like when half the team is talking crap or maybe has their head down in practice, this guy goes and tells them to lift their heads up. Like, and I always look at Aaron Jones. I'll never forget when Dontavian Wicks is coming off the sideline. He's looking at the ground. Jones walks up, smacks him on the head, puts his head up and says, "No, dude, you keep your head up. Like, don't fall for this crap." Like, that to me is worth millions of dollars. You can't monetize that. Like,
no, I'm with you. And you go from the other perspective, a separate receiver, Jaden Reed. Would they catch him on the sideline saying, "Man, I love blocking for you." Talking to Jonesy, I'll block for you. I'll die on this field blocking for you, right? The problem I have with that whole situation, wish you hadn't brought it up, but I'm gonna give my opinion. We let him go over $1 million.
I don't even talk about it. Dude, imagine if we had a Jacobs and Jones 1-2 punch.
The people that defend Goody, they'll say, "Well, that's Goody. He removes the emotion." Bro, $1 million? $1 million? And you're acting like this is a good thing that they let him walk? That's where I have a problem with the whole, again, I'm going to tell you when I think Goody does something well, not that my opinion matters a hill of beans, but when Goody does something well, the wide receiver room, this stuff we're talking about, he's crushed the draft the last couple of years. Like, I'm going to tell you about it. But when he does something bad, I'm also going to mention that too. The people that get upset when you say anything negative about Brian Gutekunst, I challenge you, just go to their Twitter page, click on their profile, search Brian Gutekunst, and find one negative remark about Brian Gutekunst. You won't find one, right? Because it's the same thing I said about Aaron Rodgers. When everybody started hating Aaron Rodgers, I said, I challenge you to go to that person who's hating on him, search their timeline, Aaron Rodgers, and I guarantee you, when the vaccination status dropped, that's when they started hating. That's typically how it works. So anyway, when it comes to Kenny Lowe, he's playing for a new contract. There's no doubt about that. You'll get the best version of Kenny, and him being more one gap responsibilities, I think will be it's a recipe for Kenny Clark blowing up this year, and I'm here for it, man. Here's the secondary. Okay, they just put the whole secondary in a group. We have the third most expensive secondary in the league at $52.4 million. So what did we learn? Kenny Clark contract seems a bit overinflated, right? The mistake Goody made at the linebacker position was Devondre Campbell extending him and having to kind of eat that dead cap when you decided to cut him this year. And whether it's post June 1 or just absorbing that hit in the current year altogether, the dead cap doesn't change, right? You're choosing to extend it out over 2 years as opposed to one. But when it comes to the secondary, $52.4 million, 18%, almost 19% of our cap is allocated to the DB room, right? So when we look at the DB room and how it breaks down, Jair Alexander, 23.9. The thing that hurts about Jair Alexander, and I think we're going to get a much better version of Jair Alexander, I'm hearing a lot of people go, yeah, see, he hated Joe Barry. He showed up to camp now. Bro, are we just not going to mention the huge roster, the workout bonus that was applied this year? Like, come on, let's tell the whole story here, right? That plays into it too. I haven't dove into all the details there. Someone said $700,000 is what he got paid to participate in the offseason workout program. If that's true, that's why Jair showed up. Now,
wow. And I think it's fair to say too that obviously the money incentive, but the fact that there's a new defensive coordinator, they just brought in Xavier McKinney.
Yeah.
They got a lot of young new talent. Jair's not stupid. He's looking at that being like, dude, I gotta get there and make sure I got my block secured because they're clearly making moves. And
yeah, absolutely, man. Hey.
You never bring peanut butter to a jelly fight.
I love Jordan's response. Jordan's like, "The hell was that? So bad, it's so bad, it's good, man." So $23.9 million. All right. Next, look at Xavier McKinney's cap hit, Jacob. $7.8 million, bro. He's getting paid this year against the cap a third of what Jair is getting paid. Right, roughly a third. Keyshawn Nixon at $3.9 million, Eric Stokes at $3.7 million, Corey Ballantyne at $2 million. I love Corey Ballantyne. I think that's someone I think he's a solid player for the price. You're talking about bang for buck. Yeah. Robert Rochelle, $1 million. If I remember correctly, he was a big special teams contributor. Zane Anderson, $1 million. Evan Williams, here comes the rookie. Evan Williams, $995,000, man. Carrington Ballantyne, $940,000. You guys know I'm a Kentucky fan. I was a little down on Carrington. Everybody made it sound as if he just played awesome last year. I didn't see that he played great last year, but as a 7th-round pick and less than $1 million cap hit, yeah, that's good. That's a great job by Goody there, getting a little bit of wear and tear out of a corner that you drafted in the 7th round. Anthony Johnson Jr. $935,000, Benny Sapp $915,000, Zion Gilbert $915,000, Katan Oladapo just did that chalk talk yesterday, $858,000. Kalen King, if 2022 Kalen King shows up, bro, $815,000. Let's go. Then you got Christian Young, Gurning Green, and then you got Tyler Coy at the bottom. Or Coyle at the bottom. That's how the secondary room shakes out. Again, when Jair is Jair, he's one of, if not the best corners in the league. If he shows up this year, that's more than worth $23.9 million, right?
You know what's crazy too?
The thing I have a hard time accepting though, Jacob, is that dude got suspended last year. Yeah. And he's that, you know what I'm saying? That's still a tough pill for me to swallow. Go ahead, bud.
No, I was just gonna say the money that Xavier McKinney right there. So I'd argue that he's a top 3 safety in this league. We saw what Mr. Winfield Jr. just got. The disparity between what we're paying McKinney versus what Winfield got. I mean, that shows right there too that I'll give Goody another high praise there. It's like he realized that these guys are going to get paid. I mean, what did he take? Xavier McKinney ended up getting like a draft, like wasn't it 10 million less, maybe 15 million less?
It was 20. It was 20. It was basically half the guaranteed money that Winfield got, and yeah, the cap hit is like 4 or 5 million less per year, if I remember right.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's on average, I should say. Yeah, Goody crushed it, and again, he's got to go out there and perform. If Xavier McKinney plays the way he played, last year, and shown he's capable of playing, then yes, this is going to be another. Again, people probably heard the last 10 minutes going, Clayton hates Brian Gutekunst. No, Xavier McKinney. You guys have seen my tweets. He crushed it, man. I mean, the fact that Antoine Winfield got paid as much as he did, and you got Xavier McKinney to sign on the dot on day one of free agency for that contract. Kudos to Goody, man. Great signing. And again, all we've heard the whole time, leader in the locker room, Jeff Hafley, he's talked about it over and over and over, how this dude has just assumed that leadership role. Him and Jair Alexander attached at the hip, sitting next to each other in the meeting rooms. Money well spent. You got to tip your cap to Goody there, man. Great signing. So I'm with you, Jacob. I think it's awesome. Moving on to kicker. Our boy Anders Carlson, right? And we won't go into the entire kicker room here, but it's only $2.9 million against the cap. 20th in the league, okay, as far as cap. Now, keep in mind, they signed the kicker out. His name, I forget his name now. They signed a kicker from, was it Minnesota last year?
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
It's okay. Don't worry about it. There'll be a little bit of a camp battle there, obviously.
Greg Joseph, I think his name is.
Yep, that's correct. So $2.9 million, they're 20th in the league. It goes back to what we originally started with, looking at the teams at the top and go, okay, did it make sense? The Giants have the most room allocated as far as cap space to the kicker position. I think we would all agree that the Giants are not Super Bowl contenders. The Indianapolis Colts are second. They're not Super Bowl contenders. However, number 3, Baltimore Ravens, obviously that's the best kicker in the league. What's his name? I can't remember his name now. Justin Tucker. Yeah. Phenomenal. Pittsburgh, always competing, always making the playoffs. Seems like always have a winning season. They're 4th. Seattle's 5th. Yeah. 6th is Atlanta. That's hot garbage. 7th is Tampa Bay. 8th is Kansas City. Obviously, we won't get into that. That's the guy that currently has the number 1 selling jersey in the entire NFL right now, and it's all women's jerseys. Women are going out and supporting our boy out there in Kansas City for the comments he made. That's just a wild, turn of events that you've got one side of the aisle that's like, oh my God, what a horrible human being. And on the other side, the people that it's supposed to offend are buying his jersey. That's just 2024, though. As you said on the ticker there, I think we still got that ticker, Jacob. What'd you say? Yeah, it's 2024. You don't know what I meant. So there you go. That's the quote of the year. All right, so that's how the kicker room shakes out. Punter, I think Goody crushed this. I like Daniel Whelan. I think Daniel Whelan's a great punter. I think he's a great holder, too. He seemed to fix our holding problems, right? We didn't have any holding issues to the best of my knowledge last year. We had the cheapest punter in the entire NFL at $915,000. So kudos to Goody. And for those people that don't like the UFL, USFL, all that merging, if I remember correctly, Daniel Whelan came from one of those 2 leagues. So keep that in mind. And I'm just going to go ahead and say this, go out on a limb. There's a kicker in the UFL this year. Have you seen him? He's hit like 6 or 7 kicks over 60 yards. It's something crazy like that. He's going to get invited to camp. If I were the Packers, I'd comb through that UFL, and invite a couple of those kickers to camp just to compete with Daniel Carlson. Because like we said before, Daniel Carlson – Anders. It's not a wasted draft pick, in my opinion, if you go with someone else, because what you can do with Anders is stash him on the practice squad. I don't think anybody's going to sign him to their active roster. And you can let him sit on the practice squad, bring in someone else, and see if he develops. If he does, then plug and play him next year or the year after. That's obviously an option, too, that you can kind of get around that. But I can't believe we made it through, man. We're only an hour and 4 minutes. We did it, Jacob.
Yes.
What's your grand takeaway here from the cap situation in 2024, man? First thing that comes to mind, dude.
Man, I don't even want to do it. Whatever, I won't go there. The first thing that comes to mind is that it's easy to believe the hype, to believe the mainstream news, and just say, "Oh, the Packers are in salary cap purgatory," blah 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 blah, and it's just not the case. I mean, like we talked about the The cap's not fake. It's not in stone. It is fungible. And these guys know a lot more than we know. And everybody needs to take a spoonful of medicine and not be so, I don't know, confident in the fact that, like, I know that this is what's going to happen, or I know this is what's going to happen. No, you don't. We don't know. Like, yeah, I was trying not to go there. This guy's making me upset.
I'll end the show on it. I'll go there. I'll take the bait. So True Brew Steve in the chat said, I've been here from day one. I know these guys are, quote, good old boys. I'd like to know what that means, by the way, when it comes to profiling. That's kind of interesting right there, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think good old boys probably means racist, right? That's probably what that means. Am I wrong there, JV? Is that kind of how you take that?
He also went up here. This is the first one. I'm way behind on the stream. And if you guys think minimum wage, not corporate greed, is why costs are so high, you're a damn fool. That's what it is today. You come in, you make a comment.
Let me handle this, Jake. Stick to football talk if you only want to discuss football here. True Brew Steve, I'm going to explain something to you, bub. This is my damn channel. This is my damn podcast. This is the United States of America. I talk about what I want to talk about on this stream. See, you notice I didn't send you an invite and say, hey, True Brew Steve, come over and watch the show. You chose to come here. If that hurts your feelings, take a hike. It's that simple. You may come from a side that chooses to cancel people. It chooses to say, oh, well, you shouldn't be allowed to say that. You're not my God, right? You're not my representative. Take a hike. I could kick you right now, but I'm going to hold off on it, okay? And look, if you never show up again, that's your decision. That's totally cool. You're not going to come in my house and tell me what to say and tell me what to do, bub. You're talking to the wrong damn one. Internet tough guy. What do you got, Jacob?
Nah, you said it. It's just, yeah, it's that typical 2024 mentality. You come on and you tell somebody how to act and say, oh, if you knew this, and then you insult them and expect that, like, it's going to go well. It's just,
no.
And clearly, you don't know what you're talking about, bro. So it's whatever. It's good.
Yeah. There you go. All right. Anything else, Jacob? Let's get out of here.
No, I'm good, man. I'm excited. Next week we got OTAs. I mean, it's going to be absolutely just. It's going to be fun, man. It's going to be fun seeing people actually in the uniforms flying around, vets and rookies and all that kind of stuff. So let's do it.
Yeah. Last one. Puddin' Time says you're losing viewers with that attitude. Puddin' Time, you're first time I've seen you in here, bub.
Leave. I've seen you before.
Leave, bro.
Peace.
It's totally cool. If we have 2 viewers in here, I'm fine with it, man. We don't talk ball to try to get famous. We don't talk ball to try to get clout. We talk ball because we love ball. And we got a lot of like-minded people that get in here and talk ball. And if you don't like it, leave. It's that simple, man. This has been a long time coming because it's always the people. You notice you never seen Putin Tame ever commenting in here? Nope. Never seen him in here, right? They just magically show up and then they got to leave. It's totally cool, man. Yep. Sorry, man. Yeah, Carly hit it. Clayton isn't here to win a popularity contest. You can tell that by the sound of my voice.
Yeah, and if you'll realize, we don't ever bring up politics. We always just respond to people who just say stupid crap. So it's like, man, I'm friends with so many of the other mind. I never bring up anything. It's only I defend myself. And it's like, whatever, dude. I don't. Nowadays, you can't be friends. You gotta, whatever. I don't give a crap anymore.
People have the right to their opinion. It's totally cool. But you don't have the right to tell someone else how to think or how to feel. I know society has taught you that they've convinced you that, oh, no, you need to be able to control people. Not going to happen in here, man. It ain't. And like Jacob said, we try not to talk politics. We try not to touch it. You probably know where we sit. I've said it. You want to know my politics? I'll say it right here and we'll wrap up. This is my politics. The left have lost their damn mind and the right have lost their damn mind. And what they have done is got every one of us to hate each other. That's exactly what's happened. What else you want to know? That's where I stand. I was raised a Democrat, and as I got older, I went, I don't necessarily agree with that. Here lately, there's things that happen on the right side that I go, I don't necessarily agree with that. That's where I stand. If that bothers you, that I'm not buying into exactly how you feel, bye. It's that simple, man. That simple. Because I promise you, none of those people are coming in to help you when you hit rock bottom. They convince you. This time of year, they'll convince you. That every 4 years, they'll convince you, oh, they love you. We're here to help, right? So there you go. All right. We're out of here. Appreciate everybody. I want to thank everybody for the support in the chat. You guys are awesome. And again, I'm just going to go ahead and do this. That way we ain't got to deal with it because we have if we hadn't even read that conversation, that comment, this would have ended just fine. Everything would have been positive. But I want people to know where I stand. If you're going to poke me in the chest, you're going to know my beliefs. I try not to push it on to people, and we're here to talk ball and have fun. And if people want to come in here and be a jackass, then we'll just move on. It's that simple. So, Jacob, appreciate your time, boy. This is a lot of fun, man. Look at this. Bears fan here. Clicked on a few minutes ago. I agree with you. Good show.
Nice.
Appreciate you swinging through, man. So I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I like the Bears, but hey, respect for dropping in. But I appreciate you watching. So, all right, everybody have a great day. We're gonna get out of here. We'll see you tonight for PTA Live. I'm sure that Putin Tame will be back in under a different name later tonight. That's usually how that works, and we'll go ahead and ban that one too. But again, we're just going to continue to clean house, have fun, talk ball, and hopefully we all learned something today. I know I did, just going through the numbers. These are things that I do every offseason, especially this time of year. I want to know, okay, where's the cap allocated, and what's it look like? What's it mean for the future? And as you kind of dive into that stuff, you kind of get a little bit better understanding. So these are things I've done every offseason. I'm just happen to do it on podcast now, so we're doing it out loud. And it's cool because me and Jacob disagree on a lot of things. He pushes back on stuff, and it gets me thinking like, okay, maybe I'm looking at that the wrong way, and I'm sure it happens the same with him. So that's a beautiful thing. But it's all about opinion. It's all about learning from each other and just being better, more educated fans. So we'll see you guys tonight. For those of you listening on the pod, thank you for making us a part of your day. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world, and go Pack Go.